Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Big Discussions 76 Entertainment and Media. Artisan MC says I need to shorten that. I know it's a mouthful, but that's that's what I have right now. Maybe I'll figure out a more creative way to express that. It is December 26th, 2022. I hope you all had a good Christmas. Those of you not living in the Great Lakes. Currently, I am in north central New York State, in the Albany area. For those of you who are familiar with the geography of New York State, you know that that's 2 hours north of New York City. And I have not been able to get to Buffalo because of the storm of the century and the storm of our generation. So fortunately, the Albany area did not get hit with that storm. So I was able to go see Avatar 2, The Way of the Water, on Christmas yesterday after going to the Chinese buffet. I'm going to make an announcement on my original channel. That's my main antenna. And then I'll hop in and then I'll hop off because I have another stream to do on my science channel. For those of you who don't know, I have a science and technology YouTube channel. And thank you to the person who left me the like. Someone left a like as I started this. So I'm going to make an announcement over on my original channel. Let me first see and make sure this is broadcasting. Yep, it's live. Okay, so I'm going to like my own video. I always wonder if it's cheating when you like your own stuff, but in this social media SEO game, I think that's totally legal. Okay, so let me go over here. I'll give it a like over here. All right. All right, that's been shared over there. Oh, I got a few more likes, I think. So let me go back to the channel so I can watch all of the meta data come in all at once. I'm going to play my intro here, which I need to update. And then I will get to what it is I have to say. And then I will hop off because I have something that I'm doing. I have a really, really big interview over on my science channel today. For those of you who don't know, Avatar, since Avatar is in large part, uh, it's a science story too, in addition to all the things that the movie's trying to tell us. Well, all the things James Cameron uh, tries to tell us through the movie, but it's also a science story. And I have a science channel. It's called Big Discussions 76 Science and Technology. I'm always looking for more subs over there. So if you're not subbed over there, please consider subbing. Today, I'm going to have a guest and we're going to be talking about automation and what it means for all of us going forward. Anyway, I'm going to play the intro and then I'll see you on the other side. All right. Good morning, everyone. Well, those of you who are here, thank you to whomever just gave me that like. Please let me know who it is. If you've seen this movie and you have thoughts on it, let me know what you think there in the chat. If you haven't seen this movie, well, if you haven't, looking at the title, there are going to be some spoilers. So I'm going to reveal some things. But this has been out for a little while. So I mean, if you've been watching The Critical Drinker, uh, Artisan, one thing, yesterday when I made that joke about, I guess we can't talk about hot female actresses on Christmas, I was referring to when your feed temporarily dipped out. So it was a joke about YouTube taking stuff down. And I was totally cool with what you were talking about yesterday. So I just wanted to clear that up. I was going to the Chinese buffet when I was on your panel and someone called me, so I just didn't come back up. So, but that's what I was saying when I said, I guess we can't talk about this on Christmas Day. So, anyway, um, so if you haven't seen this movie, there will be some spoilers. I don't have a lot to say. Um, Artisan, let me know if you have you seen Avatar 2, Way of the Water? Well, he gives me that answer. While he gives me that answer, it's interesting when you're a content creator. Your channel is a store, so you could see, you can check your analytics. I'm bad about that, but you could see what people are watching in the last 48 hours. And for a while, people keep going back to one of my early videos on this channel, and that was a review or a retrospective on Lawrence Otis Graham's Our Kind of People Inside America's Black Upper Class. I was still a young content creator at that point. I'm probably still a young content creator right now, but the video quality wasn't great, and people keep watching that video. So periodically that video, it rises to the top, and it appears as one of the videos that people have watched in the last 48 hours. Some commenters really ripped me on that video. They said, "Oh, you're talking too much about yourself. You're doing this, you're doing that. Just get to the point." Commenters can be pretty mean sometimes. But I think what I'm going to do, since people keep watching that, and I did create content on the show, uh, and then I stopped. Well, I think I'm going to do a retrospective stream on Our Kind of People Inside of America's Black Upper Class after making that video, probably 2 to 3 years later. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to do another stream on that, and because people keep watching that, so there's something about that book and there's something about that topic that keeps drawing people in. So anyway, let me get to this because people get frustrated when you don't get to exactly what your title says you're going to talk about. Okay, so I got yeah, because of the weather. I'm here in the Albany area. This was the first Christmas I spent by myself. Because of the weather, I can't get out to Buffalo. I couldn't get out to Buffalo yesterday. My dad is out somewhere doing something, so I was here by myself. So fortunately, the movie theaters were open, and I said, you know what? Let me get out of the house and let me go see Avatar 2, The Way of the Water. I'm going to pull up the embed here. Artisan, since yeah, I'm gonna run through this pretty quick. If you're gonna hang around, I'll drop the links. You can come up and you can let me know what you think. So I went to go see it. I went to go see the 540 show. I had seen a lot of reviews on this from. I'm thinking about Artisan. I don't think I saw your review of this, but I'm subscribed to Chris Gord, Film Threat. I'm subscribed to the Critical Drinker. So I heard about this movie, what's the good, the bad, the ugly. And so I kind of knew what to expect. I knew that it was 3 hours going in. I didn't have anything else to do last night, so I gladly sacrificed those those 3 hours. I left the Chinese buffet with a stomach full of food. And fortunately, I took a short nap before going in the theater because if I hadn't, I probably would have fallen asleep during those 3 hours. So Avatar 2. So this was the sequel to the first Avatar. So I think that came out about what I think Chris Gore said 13 years ago. So 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 it took a while for them to for James Cameron to make this one. In the first one, uh, the humans, the evil humans, um, went on a mining expedition to the moon of Pandora to mine. I believe it was called unobtainium. And it's funny. Many content creators have pointed out that all these movies they have an element that that a unique element that everyone's after. Vibranium, unobtainium. Oh, geez, I can't think of the other one. There's another one in another series, but there's always some element or some energy source that someone's after. But that's consistent with our real world because at least on the planet Earth, energy and resources are a big deal, and that's in large part what our countries fight over, and that's in large part why the United States does what it does, and that's to secure energy and resources, and that's why China is in Africa right now because there are resources over in Africa. But anyway, that's what the first movie was about. Humans went to Pandora to get the unobtainium, and so they had to, um, and they came in contact with the Na'vi, who were the native intelligent species. They're these 8 feet tall. I think they're 8 feet tall blue people who were essentially they were essentially Native Americans. Okay, so it was in my mind, Avatar was essentially it was about the colonization of the United States, or maybe the British Empire colonizing other parts of the world. They're going into these native lands to establish dominion over those lands and to get access to the resources there. And in doing so, they they have to disrupt the way of life of the native people there. So in the first movie, um, to get the resource they were after, they had to destroy the environment of the Nevi, and they ended up destroying the home tree. That which is where Naturi's family. That's where they gathered around this home tree, and the Navi had this biological. They had the ability to biologically connect with the environment and the animals on their world. So that's what the movie was about. Sigourney Weaver, Sam Worthington as Jake Sully. Their job was to use their avatars, which were created to communicate with the Navi, to negotiate with the Navi, to learn their ways and their rituals. Uh, and in the process of doing that, Jake Sully falls in love with Natiri, and he switches his allegiance from the humans to the Navi, and so there ends up being this big battle where the Navi end up fighting off the humans, and they send the humans home packing. That's a very quick and dirty way of describing um, Avatar One. Yeah, if you haven't seen it by now, I don't know why, but the effects were really good. The special effects, the CG was all very imaginative. It was all very uh, compelling in terms of spectacle. So this one, for this one, I think it's why do I want to say 13 years later? It's several years later. The Sky People have left; those were the humans, and Jake and Naturi have started their own family. They have 3 biological children, 2 boys and a little girl. And then, interestingly, um, Grace's avatar, that was Sigourney Weaver's character, it got impregnated. So her avatar had a child named who was voiced by Sigourney Weaver, Kiri. By the way, by the way, those Navi, some of those Navi women, whew, they look kind of good. I was sitting there looking at the screen and thinking, these are fictional images, but these Navi women, ooh, yeah. Anyway, let me get off that. So, and Norm, what's his name? Norm. Some of the humans, some of the sky people stayed behind. I'm looking at Norm. Yeah, he stayed behind. And there was also uh, a human child named Spider, uh, who ended up being the son of Quaritch, Colonel Quaritch. Um, and he was there, and he took a liking to the Navi, and they adopted him. So so Jake Sully starts his family with the Turi, and then the Sky People come back because the Sky People can't stay away from Pandora. They set up a city, and they're back to mining, and they're back to basically terraforming the world because I think Earth is dying, and this time they're after. It turns out they're well, they may probably still want the unobtainium, but this time they're after a an extract from the brains of the whales. Um, and then also the colonel who gets killed fighting Jake Sully at the end of the first one. He they put a contingency plan in place so that he had his own avatar created, so he was able to download the bulk of his memories and his spirit into that avatar. So Colonel Quaritch comes back as his own avatar, as his own Navi with his own platoon of Navi soldiers, and so they're hunting Jake Sully. Jake Sully takes his family. He he surrenders his role as chief of the tribe, and they go off and live with one of the water tribes. And the rest of the movie becomes about Colonel Quaritch hunting down Jake Sully and his family. And Jake Sully and his family, they're learning the ways of the water, quote unquote. And that's when we find out that the Sky People are also there to basically harvest this anti-aging extract from the brains of the whales, which ends up being the commodity that's paying for everything. So it's paying for all the research, it's paying for all the development there. So there ends up being a battle at the end. Jake loses one of his sons, and the Sky People are defeated. I'm glossing over a lot, but I don't want to just keep walking through every little detail of a plot. So I have some notes here. I'm going to go over these, and then I'm going to artisan. If you're still there, I'll drop the links. You could come up. So that's my overview themes of the movie. Chris Gore covered this extensively, and I think um, for all the movie's drawbacks, I think this was one of the good things about the movie, and that it had a strong family component and that's important, especially for us being in this era where we don't know what a family is, and where what a family is has actually been redefined to not necessarily include fathers. So that's something I'll credit James Cameron for this. That's something he kept hammering away at throughout the plot was that um, families need fathers, families include fathers, and fathers protect. They kept saying that fathers protect. I thought that was awesome. Um, a major theme was capital. Two major themes were capitalism and colonialism. The Sky People, they came to Pandora to take advantage of the natural resources there, not necessarily caring about the environment they were disrupting or the cultures they were disrupting. Ecology, that kind of goes hand in hand with the capitalism and the colonialism. Um, what's the cost what's the cost to the environment for you going and disrupting the environment and killing off the natural species there for your own monetary benefit? What's the overall cost of that? And again, we face those same questions here in our real world on the planet Earth. Which was the cost? What's the overall effect of drilling for oil and combusting petroleum products into the environment? Are you creating more greenhouse gases? Are you making the Earth more warm? Are you uh, pushing us and every species on Earth towards extinction? Are you hunting certain species down to extinction? That was a main theme. That was a theme with the whale hunting and the whale poaching. And I'm going to agree with Chris Gore and those guys, and that I really didn't want to see that. I really didn't want to see whales being poached. I really didn't want to see uh, animals being hunted down like that. It was kind of brutal the way they did that and the way that they showed that. That's always tough to see on a screen, especially when a particular animal has a pup. A mother has a pup running alongside it, and then the humans come and just hunt down the mother, and the pup is left with no mother. That's always hard to see. Spirituality. There was a huge spiritual theme to this movie. Learning the ways of the water, controlling your breath, breathing slowly. Uh, Water is eternal. It's speaking to us, so on, et cetera, et cetera. There was a huge spiritual theme to this movie there. Science, that speaks for itself. There was science all throughout this movie, everything from the space travel to the creation of avatars and creation of artificial Navi. There was yeah, the ability of the Navi to talk to the trees and the natural world and those kinds of things. So science was all throughout this, and mysticism. I think that in terms of mysticism, again, going back to the spirituality of the movie and the ability of the Navi to speak to the trees and the animals, and to bond with the animals, and to bond with the environment, and the ability to download spirits and consciousnesses into the world and into the environment, and the world taking bodies back after they died. There was a huge um, element of mysticism in this movie. Some of the elements reminded me of other movies I saw this year. I'm thinking about Wakanda Forever, Sea People, Blue People. Um, that whole element of this made me think about that. I don't know when James Cameron started making this versus when Ryan Coogler and Disney started filming Wakanda Forever, but as I was watching this movie, I was thinking, I feel like I've seen some of this before recently. Recently, also the Woman King, just all the battles. There were a lot of battles in here, and you know, there you have battles in the Avengers and Doctor Strange and those kinds of movies. But this, you know, you have you know, rapid fire weapons and Navi coming and shooting bow and arrows and pilots and people, and there was just a lot of violence and carnage. And I'll tell you what, the one scene where the captain of that vessel who was hunting the whales. There was that one scene where the whale jumped over the boat with the cable and started stripping the top of the boat away, and the guy's arm got caught. I looked at that and I said, you know what? I know what's about to happen. His arm is about to snap off. And I lowered my head like this because I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see that happen, you know. So some people believe once you see certain things, you can't unsee certain things. And so I did look down when that was about to happen. And then I just looked up and saw his body flying away and the arm flying this way. So there was a lot of violence and a lot of carnage and a lot of killing in this movie. More so, I don't know, more so than what I'm used to now. Um, and I'm just thinking you don't see a lot of that in the Avengers, in Star Wars. You see battles, you see good guys and bad guys, but you don't see a lot of carnage. So that stood out to me as I was watching this. And it was very long. It was very long. It was about 3 hours. And at one point toward the end, I was looking at my watch and saying, "Okay, where are we with this movie? And are we close to the end?" You can always sense when you're close to the end because when you're in a final battle, you know that you're in a final sequence, and you know that you're close to the end of the movie. But that middle sequence when they get to living with the water people and they start exploring the water and the ways of the water, and where the kids are learning to talk to the animals, and where Jake Sully and his family, they're learning to bond with the sea animals. That whole stretch of the movie was very, very long. I guess that would be the second act. The second act was very, very long in this movie. Um, Kenshawn says, good morning. I think you mean good morning, Dr. Dunbar. It will be part three, and his son Spider will be a man. Yeah. So you know what? Honestly, and I'm gonna shut up and drop the link, artisan, if you're still there. I thought Jake Sully was gonna die at some point because that's the other thing. That scene right there, that the end scene where the thing. That's another thing this reminded me of Poseidon Adventure, the Poseidon Adventure. Because I don't know if any of you have seen Poseidon Adventure. The boat capsizes, boom, and then the water's rising, and they're losing breathable air. That's another thing that this reminded me of. So during that last sequence, where some of them were trapped underneath the vessel, and the water's rising, and they're trying to, breathe. That was well done. That felt very, very claustrophobic. That's something in movies. Whenever that's portrayed in movies, that's something I always look at and say, you know what? I hope I never experienced that. I hope I'm never on a sea vessel that capsizes and the water's rising, and I'm either going to die or I have to figure out how to hold my breath long enough to swim out of there. So I thought that was well done. So that part reminded me of Poseidon Adventure, and maybe even Titanic a little bit. But the point is, I thought for a while there, maybe Jake Sully and Nateri were going to die. But, well, you could probably guess from what I'm saying that they didn't. Um, so I don't know. I didn't hate the movie. I didn't hate the movie. I didn't think it was a terrible movie. I thought it was long. I thought it was good. Not being able to see my family yesterday, I did need a little bit of an escape, so it provided that. There was a lot of violence. I know that I keep stressing that, but I think this movie reminded me of while we've seen a lot of action movies, a lot of superhero movies over the years recently with Marvel phases 1 through 3. You really didn't see a lot of killing and a lot of blood and a lot of limbs being ripped off in those movies. Star Wars 2 as well. But in this, yeah, yeah, you saw a lot of killing and a lot of um, you saw a lot of things. Artisan, I'm going to drop the link. I'll open it up if any of the other guys want to come up as well. That's pretty much what I thought about the movie. I didn't hate it. It was a nice release. It was entertaining. I don't know that I'll go see it again. I don't know that I'd be willing to sit through it for another 3 hours. But it was entertaining, and I like the fact that James Cameron kept reiterating that point about family and that point, that theme about fathers. I thought that was cool. That was cool, and the way that showing him interacting with his sons and his daughters. I like the Carrie character. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of enjoying her for most of the movie. Artisan, what's going on?
What's going on, Dr. Anwar?
Not much.
So you went and dove into the water, went into the deep end of the Navi.
Yep.
Went swimming in Pandora, I see.
Yep. I see you.
Yeah, I see you too.
Oh, there was also a lot of hissing.
A lot of cat hissing. Yeah.
Oh, one more thing. I didn't realize that the Navi only had 3 fingers. And so Jake and his kids, they had 4, but the rest of them only had 3. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that sets up an interesting little through line for the rest of the movies that they do, because it sets up indigenous, Pandorans, and then the human hybrid Pandorans that Earth has made. That makes it a little bit interesting, because that sets up a little class system kind of situation, like happens in colonization. The closer you are to your colonizers, the more benefits you get, in your society when they take over. So I think that's a little interesting. That's gonna play out a little bit further along than just in this movie. But they pointed it out, and I was like, yeah, they do have 3 fingers and they got 5. That's different. That makes them hybrids and different in their society, but they're a little smarter because they got some of that human intellect going on, along with that Navi spiritual AWA connection. So that's interesting to me. That's a bit interesting to me.
Did you like this, or did you think it was too long? Did you?
I liked it. I did not think it was too long. I think it moved really quickly for the 3 hours that it was there. I mean, it went quicker than, what was the other one that came out this year that was 3 hours long? Like, I kind of
Wakanda?
Was it Wakanda? Yeah, Wakanda. Yeah, they could have cut 15 minutes off of that shit. And I'm not saying that because I hate Ryan Coogler, Black Panther, or the MCU, but that one, yes, it could have been cut down longer. This one, the middle scenes, what was it, like Act 2 or something like that, where you get into the kids learning about being in the water, and then the side story with the little whale creatures. It did feel like it stretched out the movie a little bit. It basically was a tempo shift. It downshifted for the story, right? You downshifted into a quiet moment where you get all this learning with the children and learning about these whales. So when you get to the last act of the movie, you understand why this is important, why this is emotional. And that's why you didn't like it. I actually like the fact that they showed that whale hunting, because if you've ever seen videos of like Greenpeace or whatever, where they get these whaling ships and stuff like that, you would be sick. You would be sick. It how it goes down is really barbaric, dude. Really, and it hasn't changed much, except it has gotten more efficient. Put it that way. how they get these whales out the ocean onto these ships, get the pieces they need and throw the carcass in the water and smash off. It's like, oh man, this is horrible. But it made you had to have that connection with that whale character in the beginning.
Yes.
In the middle of the film, so when you get to that third act, you understand, like, okay, I want these folks to go. I'm sorry, they gotta go. This is terrible. This is
Right.
you should have a feeling of I can't look at this. I can't watch this because that means you're invested in the movie and those characters. You don't want to see something that terrible happen to them. So
Okay. You know what? That's a good point too. In that's so one context for that is the whale poaching, but also when you learn about the history of the westward expansion in this country, that was one of the criticisms the Native Americans had for the settlers was that they would kill the buffalo
Yep.
and just take
Buffalo.
parts of it and then just waste the rest.
Yeah, buffalo, the elk, all the natural animals there. They were fused to live in balance. Like if you study history, you'll see that here right in the US, but you'll see it everywhere that colonization has happened. That's what happens. It's a repeating cycle every time that different places have been colonized. So the Na'vi can substitute or be a metaphor for the Native Americans, but it also can be a metaphor for indigenous people on Pacific Islanders and stuff like that, or places in India or places in Africa. It's the same cycle. It's the same pattern. So you have to understand that pattern to understand how monstrous some of this stuff is and how much it throws the natural society out of whack. So me personally, I don't have a problem with it. Yeah, show it. Thank you. Somebody gonna say it. And they was all dancing out there and like the sound of music or something like that, and everything was wonderful. Nah, bro.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you want to? Okay, we got Ken Sean here. All right. Do you want to see a part 3, Artisan?
Yes, I heard James Cameron said he wanted to do like 6 of these, and we got 2 years before the next one comes out. So yes, the way he's described that he's doing it, the story will move on from the characters that you started with to their descendants and stuff like that. So I like stories like that. I like stories like that where you get into the first set of characters. They have children, you get into those children, and then you get into you follow the children on this place. So you're still getting the same story on the same planet, but it's progressing through time with you as well. You're getting to get connected to each one of these groups of people dealing with this same problem throughout time. So I'm fine with that. I really liked it. I did think Jake was going to die in this one too, but I liked how they introduced his children, and you get his children's backstory, and you kind of see that his other son, his younger son, is probably going to be Jake for the next generation, because basically him connecting with that whale is like making him the Turok Makto of that movie, just like Jake was in the first movie. That's basically what it was, because nobody else had connected with the whales like that. He was the only one.
Okay. Yeah, so kind of you're proposing kind of a Alex Haley Roots type of thing where you go
generational. That every Avatar movie is like generational, and that would actually be awesome. That's good storytelling to me, to see the progression of the story and it not have to be tied to exactly that one character, and you keep dragging them along and dragging them along and dragging them along. After a while it gets tiring. Like, how much can happen to this one person? Let's move the story on, because they're not going to be there forever, and we need to introduce new characters, and that keeps the story fresh. That's the problem that Star Wars is having right now. They don't know how to move it on beyond the legacy characters. They keep screwing it up.
Okay. Hey, Kareem, we're talking about Avatar 2. If you saw it, you're welcome to join us.
It's Kareem.
Let us know what you thought about it. Otherwise, we're giving away some spoilers here.
Yes, it's okay. The movie's been out for a while.
Yeah, it's been out for a while. But you're welcome to join us if you want. And I actually would like it if you did. And Sean, what's going on with you? And Sean?
Trying to get my mic on mic here. How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
All right.
Great. Hope you're enjoying your holidays. I thought, is that Sojourner Weaver?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Tell you what, she has been, she is a catalyst, man. But you know what I find interesting, looking at it from a perspective of the fatherhood, because I think you mentioned that earlier. He was important and holding the older brother accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, he had to see that the younger son is actually connecting more with nature. And that's what a dad does. Is he notices his downfall and saying that, hey, he didn't listen to me. He kept going out playing with his friends, doing things that I asked him not to do. But what I didn't see is that in his failings, in his being sharpening, he ended up getting something that will help this whole in society. Would help the whole team, the whole family. So I think I think this is a great move by whoever made this movie, because just me looking at it from the outside, I'm not really a big fan of Avatar, but I thought the first movie was good enough to watch the second one simply. And so I'm just a casual and just looking at it from a perspective of the fatherhood. I think that is a great step, because you got many scenes where you got pushback from I forgot her name. Yeah, Natiri. Natiri pushed back at least 10 times. You know, she wanted him to do this, or she wanted this, you know, to restrain the father from doing what was best, and she had her emotion, and he still implemented good fatherhood skills, which is it. I said what I said basically. So it's not really submission or controlling, and women got to see how you have to trust the father's. You know, it isn't that he's you know, controlling you or telling you to sit down and you must sit down because you don't have your own you know, you don't have your own impulse. You can't do what you want. It's just that if the family fails, of course, it's going to fall on the father's failure and the failed decision. But if they come out some way, this is the bond that you're gonna create. And once again, any young man that is going to be a father wants to be your first bond, ladies. So those first bonds, a man wants you to be with him. So that's why I said we don't want leftovers. But continue, gentlemen.
Agreed. I said that when I did my reaction, Dr. Anwar. I did put up a reaction after I saw the movie. I just have not done a full-on review of it yet because I'm backed up on reviews. But that was one of the main things I really enjoyed about this movie, is that it was father-centered and father-respected. And even though you saw two separate tribes, you saw two separate men with their wives and their children, the wives had their say-so. They got to say what they wanted to. They did. But they deferred and left that final decision to the husband, because the husband was ultimately the last deciding factor on that. It wasn't that they didn't get to say what they wanted to. It's not that they didn't get to disagree, which they did. The women in this, the wives, disagreed a bunch with the husbands. Like, they didn't agree with the stuff, even the kids sometimes. But they respected that father and his role when he said, "Okay, we're leaving. I don't agree. I understand that, but we still have to go. This is what the family is going to do." They moved that way. They stuffed that shit down. They didn't undermine him behind his back or anything like that. They went on with him and followed his lead. Even if the lead seems like, okay, maybe y'all should have stayed and fought a little sooner, to me, but I understand as a father, like, your first priority in a lot of senses is to get your seeds and your legacy out of danger. That's your first priority. It ain't to be the figurehead, the chieftain and stuff like that. Like, damn all that. I got to save my seeds, man. I got to make sure they okay. If they're okay, then I can come back and re-engage in this fight. But I can't leave them in harm's way just so I can get out there and be, the big chief, for this one. It's a totally different situation after you have children. So I didn't like Sully when he really decided he was going to run, but I understand why he did it. I completely understand why he did it. And the extra layer I add on to that is because you have to remember the only reason that Sully was there on Pandora anyway was because he lost his brother. His brother that was his brother's avatar. His brother had trained for that program. His twin brother had trained for that program. Spent years of his life trying to get there to Pandora, and he died. And so Sully was the closest match to be able to link with that avatar and take his place. That's the only reason he ended up there. He had lost all his family. It was just him. So in going through that journey in the first movie and finding the Tyrion and having love and finding a way that he can walk again and all the rest of that, he created his own family. He started his family anew. And understanding that first movie gives you the understanding of why the hell he would not just willingly, come on, kids, we're going into battle. No,
Right.
He out. He is out. He is getting as far away from the battle as he can to save his children, because that's his legacy. That's all that's left of him and his family. No, he's gone. He's making some irrational decisions, but excuse me, you understand, given the context of the character, why he's making those decisions.
And how about Kiri? Isn't she like? I believe Kiri has a special. I don't know what it is, but I think she's the most powerful, man. Like, even though. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think my theory on Kiri, because James Cameron is hinting at doing so many movies, and if you look it up, you'll find out the title of the rest of these movies. So it proves that I was on the money. Kiri is going to end up being like the avatar of Awa. That's what she's going to end up being. She's going to be like the damn airbender for that planet, where she can sync with the whole planet and, do Awa's will, control the sea creatures, control all of that from being right there. She will be the one on Pandora. Is what she's going to be. She's going to be the Neo of Pandora.
Yeah, man, because from she stayed underwater, like everyone else had to go up for air, and it was like she was still underwater, and I noticed that, and I was like, y'all playing. Kiri out here just connecting, bro.
Yeah, Kiri, the funny thing about Kiri, they throw a lot of stuff in there because Kiri, in a religious sense, Kiri is the virgin birth, right? Kiri is the virgin birth out of Grace's body. This is what I was going to put in my review, but Kiri is the virgin birth. Grace didn't have anybody on that planet. Grace was too much of a little bitch to be dealing with too many people on that planet, right? And that's why everybody was wondering, how did Kiri end up coming to be? How was Grace's avatar pregnant? Well, Grace linked with Awa. She became part of Awa. And Awa probably put that in her body, right? So it makes it like this immaculate conception situation, because once Kiri is here, she can sync with everything. She just laying down and the planet is just pulsing with energy and connected with her, right? So it's giving you all these signs that, okay, she about to be the one in here. She got the, power to change the matrix on Pandora. So that's what she is. She is the virgin birth growing up with the regular humans. And then if she ascends and hits her godhood, unlocks the final chamber, becomes the whole airbender, you will understand why it is, because she's linked into the planet. She hardlined into the planet like that. She is the avatar of Pandora. That's my thing.
Guys, I just want to interject something. For those watching live or on the playback, if you want to make a donation to the channel, that information is there. I thought I want to come back to Kiri, but I want to agree with what you guys said about the husband and wife dynamic. I thought that was powerful. And now that you guys mentioned it, yeah, there were both instances. Well, when Jake wanted to leave to go for the sea communities, yeah, Naturi fought him on that, but he stood firm and he said, no, this is what we got to do. And then even the chief of the sea tribe, his wife didn't want to take them in. He said, no, we're going to do this. And they gave each other those looks. And finally she said, okay, if you think this is the right thing to do, then we're going to do it. I thought that was powerful.
They squawked about it. They got to say their piece about it. I disagree. Nope, I don't think this. Look, yeah, whatever. Look, y'all welcome to come stay with us. it still went the way he said, because he's the chief.
Because let's see, what happens is, and once again, modern women tend to, they've been tricked. Where you have to find a way to work a man's ego, because he will die for you 10 times faster and certain if you do these little simple things like agreeable, regardless if I can have my piece like the gentleman said, but yes, my husband still said no. And
Right.
these little things jogs my ego. Yes, I am very simple, women. Ladies, we are very like, you do that, I die for you and my spirit comes back and die for you. But they don't see it like.
Oh,
Uh-oh, lost him. Yeah, that to the point I think he was making, that's the short-sightedness of Western feminism. That's what it is. It's the short-sightedness of it. Is that if you wanted this movie to go the way most of the other movies this year hasn't gone, at that point where Jake is saying, "Hey, Quidditch is coming. We need to run. He's looking for us. He's looking for our children. We need to go." At the point where Natiri said, "No, we should stay and fight," they would have stayed and fight. They would have stayed and fought, and they would have died. And a lot of other people would have got killed behind her emotional decision. Like, no, we can't leave this. We got all these people. Let's just go. Like, no, there's other concerns. All of them would have died. Like, for real. That would have been the end of it because it was an emotional decision just in that moment and not, we need to figure out a plan to take these people on. You always have to have a plan. You do not meet the enemy on his chosen place of battle. You do not. That's a mistake. You meet him at your choosing.
Yes. So, Artisan, how about at the end when Quidditch, when Naturi threatened to kill everyone? This is a spoiler, but threatened to kill Spider, and Quidditch was like, "Go ahead, do it." At first, and then he was like, "No, don't kill my son."
Yeah, that was a nice touch because low key, she doesn't fully like that boy anyway, right? So it's no different than you're a man and you had some kid outside of your marriage or something like that. Yeah, you got a bunch of kids with her and this kid is welcome, but it's like, but he ain't completely welcome. Look, if it came down to 3 pieces of bread and when I got 4 kids, somebody ain't getting a piece. Okay. It's probably going to be him. So it plays into that a bit that you think Natiri would probably kill him for her children. She would. Because I'm sorry, that last scene with Natiri and Jake, I was loving them as a couple. I was like, man, can I see them in every movie? This is like some Neo and Trinity shit. They in sync, boy. They taking these fools out. I was like, I was clapping for that couple. I was like, this is what I wanted to see in a Black Panther movie, man. Couldn't this have been like T'Challa and Nakia just going ham? I'd love that. Because Jake and Natiri, boy, they was down for each other. That was ride or die right there. And I was loving seeing that on the screen. Like, here they are supporting each other, in with each other, picking each other up when they fall. And now we back at it to get what needs to be done for our family. I think that is what you want to see. That is what I want to see in movies. Like, man, I was rooting for them. Like, yeah, get all of them. Yeah, get them all.
Yeah. So Artisan, they say that when the pendulum swings so far in one direction, it eventually swings back the other way. Do you think we're going to see more of
yes.
this theme?
Yes.
This nuclear family theme.
I say yes. Like, media-wise, I think it's really interesting right now if you look at media being entertainment and stuff like that. All the strife that you're hearing right now is from the pendulum being too far in the feminist angle. Right, in these movies, every quarter of geekdom and dang every franchise, there is a big dud, a steaming turd of feminism and woke diversity in the films, and the audience are hating it. Audience are hating this stuff, right? But every movie that has gone backwards in a way, swung the pendulum the other way, and done a movie that celebrates manhood, celebrates fatherhood, celebrates the family, celebrates some of those kind of traditional values has done very well and dropped that whole wokeness. They've done really well. Spider-Man, Top Gun, Avatar, for better or worse, they've all, played on this theme that people, the elites in the media want to say they don't understand why it's happening. The parents, the audience is just stupid and everything else is like, no, the audience knows what they want. They know who they are when they walk in there, and they walking in there with their family, their kids and stuff like that to go see these movies. They know what they want to see, and they know what they don't want to see because they're raising families. Why would I go to a movie for 2 hours, 30 minutes, or 3 hours and sitting there with my wife and kids and let you spit in our face about how our relationship and everything else is garbage? No, you're not getting my money. We're going to get up and leave, and I want my money back. So the pendulum is swinging back the other way. And I'm thinking Hollywood is really going to be looking at that hard come this next year. That's why you've seen companies like Disney, the MCU, like, okay, we got to go back and retool. We got to go back to the drawing board. Okay, these movies in the DC got to get wiped away, and we got to retool all of this. They're panicking because they see that. They see that, and they can do their own projections on that. You can keep going down this road, or you can make a hard right and get away from it. Which one do you want to do? Because you can keep doing the opposite of what Jake did in this movie with Natiri. You can keep listening to the woman that says, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go this way. But that's what all those movies that go that way are failing. Movies, television shows, they're all failing. So now what are you going to do? Who are you going to listen to this time? You going to keep going that way? No. You're going to have to, you're going to have to make a turn. You have to make a turn.
I apologize for that, gentlemen. My internet it just came back in. Yeah,
Hey,
but
Ken Sean,
yeah, but
happened to me last week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the thing is, weak men, make shooting up the schools and the malls and women would say, in general, men should be emotional. No, we should have what Sully did. We should have what the other king of the water people did. We should have, because that holds the boys accountable. Whether you try to hold the older son accountable or you or not, but once it's there, and like I said, I keep iterating this. That is how it is. Boys are gonna be boys, and the ones who go through the furnace is the ones who will be challenged, and being challenged makes you not weak. And like you said just now, Hollywood has to rethink this in the next year, because they realize school shootings, incels, basic things like I can eat potato chips and lay on the couch and just don't have anything towards family, not building up myself, my purpose, and it's okay. And Hollywood sees that, and what is this building? Weak boys. I haven't even said the single mama trying to teach these boys. So it's gonna kill them. These are the boys who are gonna end up killing them. So it's a threat now, like you said, sir, just now. It's a real threat.
Yeah, on my original channel, I'm interested now in men not working and the boy crisis and those kinds of things. And I saw an article by, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Scott Galloway, but he wrote an article saying that one of the most dangerous things for our country is young men who are alone.
Yep.
I can't. Yeah, let me look at the title, but that, yeah. So I think people are looking at that now. Well, alone and disaffected, not accepted by society.
Yep.
Those guys are very, very dangerous.
That's what I'll add to the whole thing about the school shooters. It's not that they're just lonely. Nobody will listen to them. That's the problem. That you cannot have this many young boys of let's say a particular ethnicity medicated, not listened to, and shoved aside and told that they're everything that's wrong with the world at the same time. You cannot have that. They have to have a place in this world. They have to. If they do not have a place with this world, you're going to see them try to burn it down. And that's the problem that they're getting. That these kids have been subjugated long enough that they weren't even listened to. Their concerns or their feelings or whatever were not even regarded, and they popping off. That's what's happening. They're breaking. They're not mentally tough enough, in a sense, to actually deal with the normal stuff because you haven't raised them to be. I talked to a friend of mine today, not to go completely off on this tangent because I don't think it's related to the movie at all, but I talked to a friend yesterday. Her son got into a car accident. Her son is in California. She's in Nevada. And she was so worried about him having to walk to work for 3 hours, to get up early and walk to work after, he flipped his car and his car is ruined. I said, well, he's a grown-up now. This is grown-up life. That's what he's going to have to do. So the fact that a 20-year-old boy has to get up earlier and walk to work instead of drive because he wrecked his car is called life. That's called a man figuring it out. He'll be all right. He can walk. His feet are not going to fall off. He's not going to be, it's not.
And ladies, and
suffering. He's
not and ladies, by the
on paved streets. Okay, he'll be fine. Okay,
and ladies, that is your power. That is your power for caring for your son subconsciously. We understand you. That is a power we will not have as men. But you're over caring for your son right now. And if the father isn't there to tell him, look, bro, you haven't walked to work yet. You ain't get up and start walking yet. The father, once again, may not be there to tell the son that and tell the mother that so she can relax and say, okay, because her power of caring is something men don't have. This is where the woman's power of over caring. Oh, I don't want you to walk to work. It's forcing him to be.
We have right. We have that power of caring. Is just not in the same way. It has to be in balance. That's the whole thing. And to get it back to the movie, that's what you saw there in the movie. It wasn't that Jake just shut down the Terry and told her whatever you say don't matter. No, he listened to what she said, but he tempered what she had to say from an emotional place with what he understood from a logical place. And that's how he tried to work with the kids, with the two of those things in hand at the same time and give them some balance. Because when he was too hard on the younger child, what did the mom's Karen come in? You got to ease up on him a little bit. He's like, well, he needs to, but you need to ease up on him a little bit. He listened to her a little bit on that. And that's the balance and that's the interplay between couples that is useful in raising children. You need that balance. You can't have all military and no caring, but you can't have all caring and no military. You have to balance the two. Otherwise, the kids end up screwed up in the middle of it. You can have some suicidal automatons or some overly emotional, I'm going to take out everybody people. That's where you go. You got to have the balance.
Yep, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. The male sphere tends to be, on average, in general, more, I'll say, militaristic. The female sphere tends to be more nurturing. And if the male side is not there, you tend to get babying, and I don't want you to walk to work. Mm-hmm. This sport is getting hard. If you don't feel like doing it anymore,
it looks like they hit you too hard. But you're playing football,
right? And imagine 20 consecutive years of no father.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So now you have the over caring, and then this boy wants to date someone close to his mom's characteristics. And then now you have the simp who's married and locked in. And if he tries to leave, more than half of his stuff is gone. This is what we're
is more so that every boy and young man has their male awakening. Right. You have that. It's I described it to my son as a voice in your head that how your mother taught you how to do certain things. But once you get out into the world, you hear that voice, but you hear a different voice as well, telling you the opposite way of doing that stuff. And to me, I called it male logic. Male logic kicks in after a point when you're out in the world, and it runs counter to that other voice that you're hearing in your head that you've been getting in school and all the rest of that. No, just calm down and use your words. No, sometimes you need to, yell on somebody. Sometimes you do, and it's okay. because that's your natural response. That is the natural response that you should have in this. But when you tell young boys that they have to stuff all that down and they don't understand that voice, that everything that is male about them or masculine about them is wrong, you leave them nowhere to go. So what does a caged animal do when it's backed into a corner? It's going to come out swinging, and it's going to maul anything it has to try to get out. That's what you're seeing with these boys. They're still men. They still need to grow into be men, and that biologically has not changed. No matter how much you want to paint his nails and put pink hair on him and let him walk around in the tutu, that's still going to come out somewhere. It's still going to express. You can't destroy that. So they'll push against all the rest of the stuff. They will. It's not surprising. It's like you can set your watch and see when it's going to happen. Like, I think it's going to happen in his teens, maybe in his 20s.
Yeah. When you said that, I thought about the scene with Game of Thrones. Jon Snow trying to talk to the little boy who stabbed him in the chest, and I thought about that scene and those moments when it came to them actually killing him. And you can only do what you can do with young boys, because you mentioned also that those boys aren't being heard. And in some cases, those boys are heard, but they're still so stubborn. But in this case, Jon Snow came back. We all know Jon Snow came back, but it is what it is. And Jon Snow had to go to be forged and go through the furnace and be sent to the wall. And either way, we see what he's become. And now, of course, you have Jon Snow coming out soon, the prequel. But that's it. It is what it is. It helps us to go through the fire.
Yeah. I would say for that scene with the young boy at the Night's Watch with Jon Snow, the point that's made there that goes to your overall point that you're making is that young boy wasn't being heard. He didn't want those wildlings in there at Night Watch. He thought it was wrong because they, murdered his whole family, and he saw it. He could not abide by that. And Jon Snow was trying to tell him, no, it's okay. Let's give him some tolerance. He did not want to hear that. He remembered his sister and his mother, and he told Jon Snow that stuff. And Jon Snow still let those wildlings in there. That's why that boy, after that point, he was like, well, look, I got to do what I got to do. And that's why he sided with the rest of those dudes when they stabbed him. Yeah, he was there too, because he could not let that ride. That was in him. That was that rage and that masculinity that was in him, that something wrong was done and it needs to be, balanced out in a sense. It's not going to be balanced
defended.
out. Yeah, it needs to be defended.
And so by proxy, that's his nature.
Yeah, that's his nature. It was his nature, and that's what Jon Snow understood when he looked at that boy. That boy didn't have nothing to say to him. He understood what it was, the same grit that Jon Snow had that brought him back from the north after fighting the White Walkers and stuff. He understood what it was. That's why he's like, okay, well, you get to swing with everybody else. He didn't want to do it, but he understood it. That's what the look between the two of them meant. He understood where that boy was coming from.
And ladies, don't get us wrong. We're not trying to say send your boys to military. We're saying they need some kind of boys brigade. They need that. They need some kind of tooling to graduate in manhood.
No, I say send them. I do say send them to the military. I don't see anything wrong with the military.
Gentlemen, since we're on Game of Thrones, I'll tell you one of the scenes that really, really resonated with me, and that was the scene where Joffrey just died and Tommen became king.
Yep.
And Tywin Lannister said, okay, I need to get in here and give him some game.
Yeah. Yeah.
He started talking to him about what makes a good king.
Right.
And he walked him step by step through what made a good king. And then he said, what's the purpose for taking a queen? And Tommen said, well, every king needs a queen. And he said, no, it's to continue the line.
Right.
I thought that was I liked that as well.
Yeah, I did too, because it showed that Tywin, he didn't really like Joffrey, and he chastised Cersei about that when he showed up to King's Landing, like, look, you and your kid, you not being able to control him is run amok. And that's what you had. You had a mother having sole control over this kid and turned him into a little tyrant. Yep. And nobody could deal with him. Nobody could say anything to him.
It was red pill all over that.
Let me finish, Kensha. His so-called father was dead, and his actual father, which is his uncle daddy, is somewhere else. Nobody could tell that kid anything. And he was a monster. And his grandfather showed up and was gonna make sure after he was gone, like, okay, he's gone. Look, Tommen, we ain't gonna have this happening again. You coming under my wing. I'm working with you. Because your mother had her chance to do what she wanted to with your older brother. We saw how that turned out. You coming under my wing, and I'm gonna teach you the way to be a king. It worked out a little better, but the boy was too soft anyway. He couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle it. And what did he do?
Correct, MC.
Well, the High Sparrow brought in the spirituality and the religion.
Messing with his head. They messed with his head. He didn't Tommen didn't have his own sense of self. He was always in the background, so he never had to develop his own sense of self. That's why it was so easy for him, for Marjorie to come in there and give him a little piece, and then he's simping after her, and then the High Sparrow to take Marjorie because she's doing some shady stuff, and then getting his ear, and now he following the High Sparrow to maybe listening to his mother, maybe listen to his grandfather. He never had his own sense of self because he had been overlooked for so many years because everybody was focused on Joffrey. And all of a sudden, all was focused on him. And he's like, he wasn't mentally ready for that. You didn't see them doing that with Joffrey. Joffrey was calling his own shots, and grown folks were scared of him. Like,
now, the thing is, right now, Baratheon knew that Cersei was doing something. He probably even found out from the grapevine that Cersei was dealing with her brother. Once again, red pill. Men don't have to deal with other women's kids. So no father was there. Baratheon just went out on hunting pigs. But he never cared what Joffrey really did. But he was disappointed in how he turned out. Now, whether Tywin knew or not, they tried to tell Tywin, but he just didn't want to believe that Cersei slept with Jaime. So now Tywin kind of knew. But see,
he didn't want
to hear. But in the detriment of Joffrey being grown up the right way, they had to deal with it together, and it flipped over in their face. They tried to save Tommen, but how can you save Tommen when Tommen, his moral impulse came in, and once again, as a man, you find out everything, and all in that you find out everything, and they destroyed the woman you're gonna marry, your whole family.
Yeah, that's what broke Tommen. Was his red pill awakening was what seeing his mother blow up that sept with all them people in it, and he realized how much of a monster his mother was too. That's why he dove out the window. He said, I can't be a part of this.
And can you fault Baratheon for not wanting to help bring up Joffrey? That's not my job.
Yeah.
Go do your thing.
I don't necessarily fault him, but Robert wasn't going to be much of a father to anybody because he was still mourning over Lysa. He was still mourning her so hard. So that's why he kept fathering bastard children and stuff like that all over the place, because he was being real loose and willy-nilly with his seed. He was, like they said, he was a good warrior, but he was not that good of a king because he didn't really want to be king. It was just put on him. He just wanted to fight. He wanted to fight and he wanted to screw. And that's what he did. But he wasn't that good of a king because he was so reactionary to everything. So it is what it is. That's what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone in the chat, we're going to go for about 15 more minutes. I have to get ready for a science stream at 2 o'clock.
Gotcha.
We started off talking about Avatar. We kind of segued into.
We still talking about
Avatar. Game of Thrones. I mean, I think because of the masculinity component, and we're talking about the effect of the masculinity component on boys. So we'll hang out for another 15 minutes. If anyone wants to come up and join us, the link is there. But go ahead, gentlemen.
Yeah, how that works with the whole. At least the Game of Thrones and Avatar way of water analogy is understanding that Tiri was kind of, her father was the chief of their tribe, of that forest tribe. He was the chief, and he died in the fight. That's why she had his bow. So technically, she's supposed to be the leader of that tribe, but she took a mate, which was Jake. and Jake was the Turok Magdo that brought all the tribes together. So he was the overall leader of that tribe. That's why she did not want to go. She wanted to stay with her people and fight. Understandable, but that's why he overruled her and actually stepped down as being the leader of all those tribes and gave it to someone else. She didn't want him to do that. That's not what she wanted. She wanted him to continue that legacy, and he was basically telling her, our legacy is with us now, with us and our children now. We need to walk away from this and, regroup somewhere else. So that's why I get that complicated feeling. Like I thought he was going out like a real sucker, but at the same time, I just watched him fight in a whole other movie. So he's not necessarily a sucker, but he does. It has been a good probably 20 years or so, that enough time to have three children of varying ages. It's been a couple decades. Okay, so I get it. You invested in this world now. You are invested in this family now. It's not like they just sprouted up out of bean pods yesterday. I get it. It's been some time. You got comfortable, and you care about this more than you care about jumping into another full-on fight. So I get it. It was upsetting, but I get why he left and why Natiri was kind of pissy with him about it. But she still rode along with him. She still went with him. She didn't decide to go her own way. No, I'm staying here, and I'm keeping the kids too. You can go run off all over Pandora if you want to. No, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. She rode with her husband. She rode with her mate. Like, okay, we're gonna do this. I don't like it, but we're gonna do it. Here we go. So that's why I appreciate it. That's why I always, when I think back about this movie, that's what I always hit on. I like that couple dynamic. I like that family dynamic, that the family stayed intact. No matter what they was going through, they stayed intact. They was down with each other. No matter.
And they wasn't trying to push like, okay, there's not to knock the LGBTQ people, but they wasn't trying to say there's a gay one out there or there's someone who abnormal, right? And they stuck to the dynamic of woman and man.
You know what, Kenshawn? That's an excellent point. I mean, you think about, I mentioned Wakanda Forever and The Woman King. None of that, no one tried to slip any of that into this movie.
Yeah, thankfully. And it's
they tried to slip it in, Dr. Dunbar, they will.
Well, it's funny because both of these movies are produced on the back end by Disney, right? But what is it about James Cameron that made it able to not have that slipped in? And what is it about Ryan Coogler where they had to be in his movie? It's just the status of the director, right? It's the status of the director and being able to push back against the studio for what they want to slip in there and those producers want to slip in there. Because if you watch Wakanda Forever, you understand, Ryan Coogler wrote it, he directed it, but you look at that stuff and a lot of the stuff that's in there don't look like none of his other movies. So you wonder where the hidden hand is pushing in there, right? But you look at James Cameron, you see he wrote this, he directed it. This looks like a lot of other James Cameron movies, like you were saying, the scene where the ship is capsized. And I thought the same thing you did, Dr. Anwar, because I'm in the same age group, right? Poseidon Adventure. Oh, the ship's upside down, water rising, you stuck in the bulkhead? I've seen that before. That's I'm choking for you. I'm already choking for you, right?
Yeah.
That's Poseidon Adventure. That's Titanic. It's a bunch of other movies. You got some alien stuff in there with the Marines and whatnot. You got some of the Abyss in there with all the underwater stuff. It's like, this is all still James Cameron. This is all his wheelhouse. This is what he does. He's been doing this his whole career. So seeing all this in this movie brought together at the same time is like, man, it's like James Cameron's greatest hits. I got Marines, I got water, I got aliens, I got mechs. Everything is happening at the same time in this. It's like, oh man, this is a feast. I'm enjoying this.
And the daughter, right? And what I thought was important, and this I speaking to women, all women who have daughters. She had to listen to her daughter in the end. Just follow me, and just believe. Of course, and use this wing, and this wing will help you follow the butterflies and whatnot, and we be able to get out of here, right? And at that point, mother had to because it's the mothers who the daughters don't trust. and at some point, the daughter has to transition from the home to a groom, meaning a new husband, and she won't do well before that if the mom is always traumatizing and having her not believe that she's not nothing or competing with her. So I thought that scene was dynamic for mothers and daughters at the end, when the butterflies showed them the light.
Well, that's what I think the theme of this movie was, is that why the family component was so strong in it, and you got all the character development with the children, is that the adults had to learn how to listen to the children. By the end of this movie, Sully, who was going hard on his youngest son,
I see,
had to actually start listening to his son, seeing his son for who he was and not his son for who he wasn't. And it was the same thing with Kiri in the Terry. She's seeing her adopted daughter's strangeness as a benefit. Her strangeness is what save they ass.
Ooh, and I could use a House of Dragons. I forgot. It's not Rhaenyra's daughter. It's the King of the Greens, the Queen of the Greens' daughter. She has that same psychic power, and she still hasn't understood her daughter yet at this point, even with her daughter having the psychic power. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I got from it, is that it's the older generation learning how to listen and accept the younger generation for who they are, with their idiosyncrasies and their differences, and learning who that person is. That's what's important about the whole thing with Avatar, was being, I see you. You have to see them for who they are, who they have developed to. Yes, he was always on his youngest son because his youngest son wasn't soldiering up like his older son. But his younger son had a different path than the older son. They're not carbon copies. They're a completely separate person. And now with the loss of the older son, you have to see the younger son for who he is, because he saved your butt. He saved you.
And that's why when you saw when she went, I don't know if you remember the scene when the queen, she went to her daughter, the one who has the psychic power, and tried to tell her that I forgot the big dragon's name, but he ate the son of the Targaryen. Now she tries to come to that daughter and say something. She says, "There's a dragon under the floor. Don't touch me." But at that point, a mother does not understand. Right.
There's a beast under the floorboards. But that was more so about the coronation, where that dragon came from under the floor and all those people.
Right. But she didn't understand her daughter. And I think that's what we're talking about now.
Daughter, like, she weird.
Yeah, but this is what it is. I still have to see you, and it's going to come to a point in the second season where that same daughter, she's going to be powerful too. Trust me.
Hey,
I forgot her name though.
I want to get Gigami in here before we wrap up. But Artisan, Salchi said that. Arson, are you familiar with this? Did James Cameron say this?
He did say that. James Cameron said some goofy stuff about testosterone and stuff like that, because they were asking him in an interview about the movie, and he said that about testosterone. Now, where I kind of get what he's saying, and I think he was talking about that toxic masculinity and shit like that. That was a dumbass comment from him. I'm not saying James Cameron is a genius in every sense of the word. No, I'm not saying he's a genius at all. James Cameron is a man just like I'm a man. He says dumb stuff. So I can totally ignore his ridiculous response about testosterone when he's trying to pander to some females. That's his business. That's his right to do as a damn man. I don't have to answer for that. He does. He said it. So it doesn't take away from what I liked about the movie and what's in the movie, because it runs counter to what he's saying right there in that statement. So that ask James about that shit. I didn't say it.
Okay. And it says, I always think of testosterone as a toxin that you have to slowly work out of your system. Interesting.
Yeah. If any of us have had, in the 80s sense, you would call these the jocks and stuff like that, right? The what we call nowadays as the toxic males, who have a lot of the testosterone, and they kick smaller kids down and kick over your sandcastle and all of that stuff. If you understand James Cameron was that kind of weird kid, you can understand what he's talking about. that this was probably somebody who got bullied, and that's why he saw some testosterone as terrible and not something beneficial, because he wasn't out there on the football field smashing into each other. He was growing up in a generation with dumbass dudes, right? But if you understand that testosterone is natural, it's not a negative, it's a natural thing, just like serotonin, just like estrogen and everything else, you understand that there is a balance to that shit. Testosterone in and of itself is not bad. It's a good thing. It's there for a reason, to strengthen you. But you have to balance that out with some understanding of the world. If you got all testosterone and no fucking common sense, you are a problem. You are a problem. Somebody's going to have to, put you down or something, or take you down a couple of pegs so you learn how to check that shit. But in and of itself, no, it's not bad. It's just like fear. In and of itself, it's not bad. It's there to save your life. You just have to manage it and not let it overrule all your thinking, but use it to give you the strength that you need to save your life if you need it to. Sorry about the
science discussion going here. Yagami, I'll go for a few more minutes. I want to pass the mic to you. What do you want to say about any of this?
First, thank you for having me on your panel, Dr. Dunbar. Salute to every one of the panelists and everyone in the chat.
Salute.
So one of the aspects of the movie Avatar, The Way of Water, that I appreciated, and two things, is that they presented different aspects of the initiatic rituals, some of which you thought about, not only when it comes to the initiation of the children up to adulthood, but also in the mysticism that relates to the world. And we also managed to see a different perspective. When the humans were talking about the connection that Kiri had with Ewa, they thought that it was only a form of hallucination coming from the frontal lobe systems. But when you dive deeper into the knowledge, which is more subtle, you see that Kiri was actually in symbiosis with Ewa. Literally, Ewa is an actually living entity. The planet is living onto itself. It is the great consciousness of their own world. But for the humans who were more materialistic, they did not appreciate this aspect of science. They consider it to be on the folk tales, actually. And another aspect that was actually interesting is that when you observe the humans, when they merge with the artificial Navi, especially the colonials and the military, this is another aspect that relates to colonizations. Because for those who do not know, for example, when it comes to the continent, the Europeans, before they were actually breeding plantations in the US, they were actually breeding plantations on the coast of Africa, especially with the island of Sao Tome and Principe. When the Portuguese and the Spaniards bred people that they captured on the coast, they brought them onto the island of Sao Tome and Principe, and then they produced mestizos, mulattoes, to then forge them into military, to then attack the continent, especially. I heard sometimes BGS talking about so-called the Africans were selling themselves and waging war, but this is actually an aspect that is not talked about. Maybe he doesn't know, but those at least in the Congo we quickly know. Actually, the fact that the mixed people, the mulattoes, that they were used against us is actually one of the reasons why on the continent, especially in Central and South Africa, they don't tend to actually appreciate the so-called colored people who mixed from Portuguese, mixed from Europeans with children, because they were used actually as a militia to then re-enter onto the continent, which is actually an aspect that was showed into the movie Avatar, The Way of Water, when you see the colonel being mixed with the Navi physiology, but he's actually a member of the humans, of the human military, which is actually an excellent representation. That's when you actually know that James Cameron has been, I would say, initiated into the secret history of how things actually happened. And also another aspect that was quite interesting from both Avatar, the first and the second, is actually what Ikikongo, we call it the Ntinu. It is the great spiraling tree of souls, which actually has been presented into the movies. You see those trees, it's been used for the cycle of incarnation, actually. That's why Jake is able to leave his old body, get into AY, then being synced with permanently with his Navi body, which is actually an interesting thing that he actually showed these things to the movie, because those things are actually thought about into the mystery schools. So I think that's another proof that actually, as you said, Artisan MC, James Cameron has a certain level in Hollywood. he's versed into certain things, which is actually why he's more able to present his own version of the things, despite what the Disney company would maybe like him to present. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. I had mentioned it earlier about how the native-born Na'vi and those human-born Na'vi hybrids, that would probably play a role later on in the other movies, because it's a different thing where you have native-born Na'vi who look one way, three-fingered or whatever, and then you have these hybrid Na'vi with humans who are five-fingered, and they have this human intellect and all that. That gets into that whole colonization type of thing. That now we walk among you looking like you. It's like you hit on it, better than I was alluding to. But yeah, that there is one of the things I think that will happen in the movies going forward. And the whole thing with the AWA trees, I do like that spiritual component, that the kids are learning about this different way to be spiritual, how this group of Na'vi on this planet tap into AWA, what they feel about the planet or whatever, because it is a whole living organism. And I see these AWA trees as like your big CPU towers or something like that, right? It's your data collection site where you can just jack into everything that's happening on this dang planet all together. They're just like nodes, right? Every time I see one of those trees and it's just glowing and all that, that's what it looks like. It looks like a computer node to me. It's like, oh, so this is the hub. This is where you can jack in and get all the information from all the rest of the planet, and then bounce on out. And that's why when Kiri went to the one that was underwater, she had an overload just like Neo did when he touched the source. Same thing. Neo had a seizure and blacked out. What did she do? She had a seizure and almost drowned. Same thing. So it's all there. Yeah, the planet is alive, Knight's Palace. Yeah, the planet is alive. You can keep messing around. Might find out they living on Ego's sister or something. I don't know.
Yes, indeed. It was really good to proceed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Dunbar. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen. Yeah, I need to wrap up.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any parting shots if you have them? Or words?
Well, I can't wait for, I guess, 2024 for the next episode of House of the Dragons. I guess Jon Snow's sequel will come out shortly before that. I can't wait, but hey.
Okay, Artisan, I always appreciate your expertise, man. You know a hell of a lot more about everything than I do. So I always appreciate you.
No problem.
Hey, man, yeah, man,
no
I
problem.
I'm going to present. I can get my thoughts, but you're like an encyclopedia.
Yeah, like all these years of packing that knowledge in my brain is useful for something.
Yeah, man. But I was talking earlier. Earlier, I was talking about Helena and Alicent. Mother, Alicent and Helena. Their relationship, or the lack of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just gonna say thank you, Dr. Anwar, for asking me up to talk about this, because I haven't been able to talk to too many people who've actually watched the movie about it. That's why I didn't put up my review. I wanted folks to actually go ahead and watch the movie. I gave my initial thoughts, but got busy. But it's good to talk about these things and not just keep trying to tear it down for what you don't like that the director said or what you don't like that somebody else said. You got to look at the work for what the work is and try to divorce the work from the person, especially if they're putting a message out there that is actually useful. I can forgive his or ignore his goofy comments about something else, flipping people off or whatever the heck else, to look at this movie and see what is the useful stuff in this movie. Like we were talking about with the Native Americans and why they were upset with the colonials for killing the buffalo. They just took one thing. They didn't use all the meat. I'm looking at the movie as the buffalo. I'm trying to use all of it, what's useful in it, and then discard the parts that are not just grab one thing. Oh, he said this, I didn't like this, it was the runtime, it was the length, screw this, I'm done, and throw away the rest of the buffalo. There's good meat there. So I'm going to grab the stuff that is actually useful and that I want to actually highlight in the piece, regardless of whatever goofy stuff the director said, because they always say goofy stuff. That's why they're directors. They have their weird vision. Tim Burton, anybody? So you got to be able to separate the politics from the product at times, and that's what I was doing with the movie. I liked the movie. I thought it was a decent movie. I didn't care about 3-hour run length because this is not the first movie this year or in the last year movie watching that was 3 hours plus. Spider-Man, Wakanda Forever. This one, come on, man. Let's stop bitching about the length of the movie and just see if you can follow the story for 3 hours. Because to me, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like an attention span thing more than the movie was too long. You weren't paying attention, is what it was. So, thank you for having me up. I did share it on my stream because I wanted people to come over here and check out the Big Words entertainment side. So. Glad you went and saw it, man. I'm glad you went and saw it. Good.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. So thanks for having me up. Thanks for everybody that was on the panel. And I'm gonna get my coffee for today now.
All right. I'll see you on the YouTube streets.
Yep. Peace.
All right. All right, everyone. I'm gonna wrap this up. I have to get ready for a science discussion at 2:00 over on my science and technology YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, I have a science and a technology YouTube channel. It's called Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. You just enter it into the search box for YouTube, and then it should come right up. You'll see me dressed in a NASA t-shirt. And today I have a guest coming over, and we're going to talk about automation. So you've seen automation a lot in the movies. And I'm going to set that discussion up with some memories of Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, because that's the first time I ever heard of the term automation. But in any case, I'm going to wrap this up. Yeah, I think some powerful things were said here. Certainly, when you go see a movie, it helps to hear what other moviegoers. It helps to hear what other moviegoers, especially really, really knowledgeable ones like Artisan, have to say and what they observed. I observed certain things. I don't see everything. It was a long movie. I would recommend make sure you're rested before you go. Maybe take a nap before you go, so that you're not, nodding off in the theater, because that can happen when you're watching a 3-hour long movie. It was a good movie. I thought the fatherhood and family themes were very, very powerful. And perhaps this is the pendulum swinging back the other way from what we've been seeing over the last 10 years. So if you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to donate something, please, if you want to donate something, my Cash App and PayPal are in the description box below. In addition to being a YouTube content creator, I'm also a writer, and I have a growing newsletter. I just sent the last one for 2022 out, so please consider signing up. This is in the description box below as well. There is a 2-paragraph greeting. It is really, really simple. There's a subscription button there at the bottom. You just click that, and it magically takes you to that screen. You just enter in your email address, and boom, you're on the list. And I promise I will not give your information away to another party. That's very frustrating to some people. It would be frustrating to me too. So, and with that, everyone, I'm going to wrap up because I have to get ready for this interview. I'm doing someone else at 2:00. So, thank you for watching, especially if you're watching on the playback. Thank you to those of you who watched live. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude, and always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.